And secondly, I will say, I always talk about, as a parent, I don't give my kids time, energy, money, whatever equally. I give every child what they need. It's Sophie might not need help with homework, but Ollie might need help with homework. Ollie, is better at certain things in sports and stuff like that than Sophie. Sophie needs more help there. So it's like, you got to give the kids what they need.
What up, what up, what up? It's Three Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. I'm Tavares Ferguson, aka Ferg, joined my co-host Buff and Rozzy. Fellas, what it do?
First and foremost, as we record, I hope everyone is getting the help that they need down there in Florida after Hurricanes Helene and Milton. So hope you guys are getting all the help and the recovery is going well for you folks, and that you didn't suffer too much damage or loss of life. But I got quite a bit, man. First off, it was interesting to see one of my favorite authors, Ta-Nehisi Coates. He has a new book out called The Message.
The Message, yep.
And he went on CBS CBS Morning, which is supposed to be a more lighter, friendly venue, the morning shows. And he had kind of like a little back and forth with one of the anchors, Tony DeCopel, I think is his name, because there's a section in Ta-Nehisi Coates' book where he travels to the Gaza Strip, and he just points out, it's not as black and white as many people think. And Tony DeCopel felt like he was being too pro-Palestine and challenged him on some, some Israel point of views. And they got into a back and forth. But it came out earlier this week that the heads of CBS kind of like reprimanded him for that and said that his bias showed and that they want to be a little more independent. But not everyone at the top felt that way. Some felt like it was his journalistic duty to push back and offer a different side. So I just thought that was interesting because not all the time news organizations, come out and say they were wrong about something when it comes to an interview and their talent. So I thought that was interesting. It makes me want to check out the book, actually.
Yeah, if you have Spotify, it's the audiobook of it. It's on Spotify. I've already listened to the first 2 chapters. It's actually pretty good. He starts off
talking. It's not that long either, right?
No, I think it's like 5 hours. Yeah, it's like 4 or 5 hours of audiobook. So it's really, really quick. But he starts off talking about.
Or is it okay?
He
takes a journey. He goes to where does he go in Africa, Rozzy? Goes
to Egypt, I think. Yeah, because he talks about the pharaohs and stuff. So that's the second chapter.
And he also goes to, I think does he go to South Carolina here? He goes to somewhere in the States. He goes to Egypt and he goes to the Gaza Strip.
Okay. Yeah. So the first chapter just talks about why he became a journalist, and he's like, basically journalism isn't dead and that type of stuff. And then he goes through those moments of his life where he's traveling and everything. It's dope. It's a really good book. So,
is it?
It's just check it out. And that's cool. I didn't know Spotify had audiobooks. So if you pay for Audible or something like that, and you want pay for somewhere to listen to music, Spotify has both of them. So I've listened to a few books on Spotify now.
It wasn't but a few months ago I said journalism wasn't dead. So Ta-Nehisi, obviously you listen to the show, bro. what you got for?
How was his delivery? Because sometimes his delivery can be hard to digest. Yes. So
he actually only got past the introduction. Like Nate Burleson introduced him and mentioned the book. And then Tony went right in. It actually was kind of, and I get why people felt a certain kind of way, because it's okay to push back and have a different point of view. But this is how he came at Ta-Nehisi. He said, I read your book. He said, and if we took your name off the book and took the cover off the book, I feel like this book would be in the backpack of a terrorist. And it's like, oh,
wow.
Like, damn. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, you're not going to say good morning or nothing? He should have hit him like Trump did at that National Black Association. He's like, wow, what a nasty question. You don't say good morning, hello. Oh, man. So, but yeah, Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote Between the World and Me, wrote We Had 8 Years, wrote it wasn't a book, it was more like an essay, but wrote The Case for Reparations, and now he has this book called The Message. So check it out if you like to read.
Is it easily digestible? Because I know sometimes when he talks, he can kind of he can be very
he can
poetic, and so he can make something more poetic.
This is accurate.
It's like
that I don't know. I haven't. Razi's listening to it, so what say you, Razi?
Does he simplify his message?
No, he does not. He is just as like wordy and heady and using the big words and all of that. Like there's some words that if you know, he uses some shot stock words, put it like that. So, you know, you're gonna have to go and look up for the words.
That is funny.
Shout out to shot stock. Do they still use it? Bring back shot stock.
I don't know.
The only other things I got is are you guys ready for FUBU? FUBU is making a comeback. They just had their fashion show in Atlanta last week, and they said they claimed that they never really went anywhere. They just kind of downsized and focused more on international branding. But this is kind of like an official relaunch, and they're going to look to appeal to, of course, their original customers, but they're also going to try to appeal to younger purchasers as well. So, if you didn't get a chance to wear that FB logo, here's your second chance.
So is it like for us by, or for what, by us, for everybody by us? Like
it's still for us by us, but the pictures I saw still look like the same stuff, so I gotta see what happens.
Yeah, and that is true though. FUBU was still, I won't say big, but it was still a core brand internationally. So in certain areas, like Japan, those places, FUBU was still big. Africa, South Africa, like people still wore FUBU. So I get what they're saying is that they didn't like go anywhere. They were still there. It's just the U.S., the fashion cycles are so fast, they fell off along with apple bottoms and all the other stuff.
And they didn't adapt, did they? They kept everything, the big baggy jerseys and jeans, and
Rise going to wear it all anyway. Rise is going to have a FUBU outfit. Rise is the reason FUBU and places like that can make a comeback. FUBU, maybe they didn't fall off. That maybe FUBU was like when Shaq's shoes went to Walmart. You still sold 1 million pair, but it's the market. Like, no, there was a. It was a fashion. I'm not gonna say a fashion flop. I guess it had its days. I wasn't a FUBUer when FUBU was FUBUing.
They bought Coogee too, by the way. So if you like Coogee, I feel like Guess at one time. I feel like Guess was popular, then it died, and then when we were younger, it kind of came back, and it's gone now. But maybe this is what FUBU is doing.
Okay, and not a real question, but if you can pick one brand that's gonna come back, you're like, you know what, I might get some. What would it be?
I thought Fila was gonna come back for a minute. I really did.
Yeah. Jabros is trying to come back now.
Yeah,
with the thin, like skinny Jabot jean. I don't know how they're doing that, but anyway, but I would probably say that's kind of fell off. That not a lot of people really rock with, but I still like. Is like Puma. I don't know if that's fallen off. Puma's still pretty big, but you do that, or even like Lacoste. I like Lacoste too. So it's that prep style that kind of.
I think Lacoste might have fell off in a. Once again, we're looking at urban fashion, right?
Yeah,
so
I think
Lacoste is more of a worldwide brand.
Yeah,
even Puma is more of a worldwide brand.
Right.
For me, something like this was, I think, that was made for urban wear. British Knights. Oh, if they bring back a pair, I will rock a pair of British Knights tomorrow. I'll wear a pair to the sneaker ball.
BKs, okay.
I will rock them. I don't even remember what they look like, but I remember I wanted a pair because the commercials seemed like that's what all the cool kids wore.
Yeah.
And I just knew I didn't have that cool kid money.
Nice.
Yeah. I might look. I'm gonna see if I might watch some British Knights to the sneaker ball.
That's what's up.
I saw it's so funny to talk about like bringing brands back. I saw a post just today or yesterday. They were talking about how back in the day, if you had a G-Shock, like that was like the epitome of like watch fashion, even in hip hop. Like you could be a rap artist star and you had a G-Shock on, right? Like so. It's funny, and Ollie has a G-Shock on his
Casio.
Ollie has a G-Shock on his birthday list. So I'm like, all right, let's go, man.
Smart
Apparently
watch
it's
is
still a
taking
thing.
over. Smart watch is taking over now.
Apparently there's still a thing.
What is G-Shock?
British Knights.
British Knights, bro.
Pick it up. Yeah.
He's serious about that. Hey, the only other thing I got is that we've talked a lot about the election. Obviously, since it's coming up, and we know Wisconsin is one of the states that the Harris campaign would really like to win. She has her work cut out for her. I was reading where the key to her success is just getting forget getting black people to vote for her. She just got to get them to show up. So in 2016, there was they had a 78.5. I'm sorry. No. The last Obama election, they had a 78.5% turnout. During the Clinton election against Trump, it dropped all the way down to 46.8%. And during the 2020 election with Biden and Trump, it dropped again to 43.5%. So nearly an almost 50% drop in just getting black people to show up. So if she can get them to show up, she most certainly will win. I think Biden won Wisconsin by like 20,000 votes. Hillary Clinton barely lost it. So that is a key constituency for the Democratic Party and for her nomination chances. So hopefully her campaign is working as hard as they can to, because Republicans have been working. Republicans, to their credit, they've been working on Wisconsin since 2021. They opened up I read like some type of public black center. I don't know what it is, but they've been reaching out. And I'm pretty sure even if they don't win, sometimes the name of the game is to just lower the turnout for your opponent. And like you may not win a particular county or you may not win a particular state, but if you can decrease their numbers and peel off some of their voters, then it helps electorally. So just something I thought was interesting. That's a huge drop off from 78.5% all the way down to 43.5%. That's all I got, fellas.
Nice. So did you see that Trump decided to cancel on 60 Minutes? So it's first time in like 60 years or something like that, or 30 years that they have nobody, like the vice presidential candidate or the presidential candidates didn't show up on 60 Minutes. So Trump broke the streak of them having the candidates on. So Kamala got a full 60-minute interview by herself. So Republican, she is talking to the media now. So can't go at her for that one. But obviously Trump is not talking to the media now. So where's your candidate, Republicans? Why isn't he talking to the candidate or to the media? But I just thought that was funny.
But if you brought up Kamala's campaign and worrying about turnout, another concern of theirs is they've been doing really well in fundraising, right?
Yeah, she raised $1 billion in 3 months.
And their fear is people have gotten wind of that, and the donations are going to stop flowing. And this is when you need that money to kind of start pouring in, and the donations are going because people, $1 billion, she's good. And it's like, no, we need to keep it going. So I know that's a huge concern of her campaign right now. So keep donating.
Definitely.
My bad, Rising. Keep going.
Nah, you good, bro. Only thing I got, man, a couple movies out there. I don't know if you guys heard Joker, Folly or Do, was a folly. So it only made, it only made 32 million. It only made 32 million. The first one over the first opening weekend. The first one made 60 million in the opening day. So big difference there. And so they think it's gonna really underperform. Hearing horrible reviews for it. It's pretty bad. So,
well, essentially they kind of changed the winning formula and it became a musical. It's a light musical. It's a light musical. People said they lost interest because there was too many musical numbers, and there was people say, well, we should expect it because there was parts of the original where there was more music, kind of, even the famous scene of him going down the steps and him dancing in the apartment. Like there was things that it's like, yeah, but it didn't give me musical number. As you were saying, his character development made sense, a little more sense, but now it's more musical than anything that we expected. In considering that it's a far different take on a villain / superhero movie, they went a little too far. Like, okay, we accepted the first, and now
it wasn't. From my understanding, there was no actual villainy
action
going on, right? There was no action. It was like a courtroom procedural, from my understanding, with just kind of some craziness happening. So it's people were complaining there wasn't enough of it. It wasn't it was basically him going through the court for the stuff that he did at the end of the movie, and then big twist at the end. I won't give up the spoiler on that. So but it flopped, and so I'll see it when it comes out on streaming, or I'll bootleg it, one or the other. But definitely won't be watching it, so won't be paying for it. The other thing in news, or movie news, is Green Lantern. They've casted the actor for what's going on?
DC and their movies.
Laughing at first.
The last Green Lantern should just.
Oh yeah, it was bad. Well, the new one's going to be a show about the Green Lantern Corps, and the actors actually look pretty good. So they casted for Jon Stewart, which is the Black Green Lantern, and they casted old boy from Rebel Ridge. So what's his name? Aaron Pierre. So he's going to be the Black Green Lantern. So I think that was a good one called. Jon Stewart is really a cool Green Lantern, ex-Marine, just like kind of in the movie. And so I think it fits his character really well. So and it's I think one of the big things that Green Lantern did wrong is they tried to just squeeze so much into the 2-hour movie. And so you got everything going on. I think this was just going to be almost like a cop show, right? Like they're following them around doing superhero cop stuff in the world. So we'll see how it comes. I think, I talked about DCU has actually been kind of stepping it up. I talked about Penguin and what they got going on with that. That's really good. So if they can kind of stick with that, where it's kind of still gritty and everything, and just kind of make it a little bit more over the top for the Green Lanterns, I think it'll work out. So we'll see. I'm not so impressed with the stills that I'm seeing for the new Superman movie, but we'll see how that comes out. James Gunn, he's a good, director and producer, so we'll see. But that's all I got, man.
All right, I have a few things. I'm gonna try to keep it short. One, I just want to follow up. We had a question a few weeks ago about what policies we would like to see Kamala implement, and one of the ones I recently heard was her Medicare long-term coverage, home care, long-term at-home coverage. So long-term care is a huge money drain for a lot of people. Some people call it the 401k drainer, because so many people, when they get older, before they, we think about saving money for when we die and retires, they can't work anymore, long-term care, and they're financially drained through that. People's 401k savings and stuff like that are drained through that. So
yeah, because you need long-term care when you need like nursing care, additional help, that type of thing. And so
that happened before a lot of people. You know, my dad needed long-term care. He needed an additional nurse and stuff after he had his stroke. So I get it, and I really I know it's something that I look at because we dealt with it and seeing my grandmother and the challenge she had. So long-term care is a huge thing. So they're looking at trying to have Medicare push that through. And of course, there's pushback from Republicans because tax dollars and all this stuff. But long-term at-home care is a huge help for a lot of people because it's less expensive. And most private insurances, including Medicare, don't cover long-term care out-of-home coverage, which is even more expensive. So on average, the national average for at-home care is about $4,500 a month. For a nursing home or something like that, it's about $8,000 a month, and it's all based off where you live. So that will be a huge benefit to so many people, and it would, I think, help with the economy, help with especially a lot of these things, even like cancer. You know, there's things where people need help, and they need nurses and people at home all the time because of cancer things of that nature. So I would love to see something like that pass with a Kamala and a health bill, but as we know, they be politicking.
Yep.
Another thing, sticking with kind of politics, I want to preface this. Actually, I might turn this into I'll bring it up. We're all gun owners, right? We are all gun owners. I feel like we support the Second Amendment, right? I feel like we all support the Second Amendment, but we do feel like there should be certain restrictions, and we have to think about, sometimes we hide behind the Second Amendment and the intent of the Second Amendment. And it's like, hey, there is no way for our forefathers to foresee the world we live in today. But are you guys familiar with ghost guns?
Yes.
You know, so there was a argument presented before the Supreme Court this past week on some legislation that Biden administration was trying to push through about putting restrictions on ghost guns. And these are guns or firearms that are generally made at home through kits, using parts, kits, or even pieces printed by 3D printers. So when I say things that the forefathers couldn't foresee, I'm pretty sure they're like, you know what? There's going to come a day where there's a machine that can just put in your house and it can create these things just off of memory. So the legislation is trying to put requirements to do background checks, add serial numbers and sales records to these guns. And of course, Second Amendment defenders, a lot of gun companies and resellers have pushed back on this. And because once again, it's violating the Second Amendment, and they're saying that Biden doesn't have the right to push this through. But it seems like it might actually stay. You know, it might go through, and Supreme Court seems like they haven't seen an argument. And it's still the beginning stage, but they haven't seen a argument that was presented well enough to say that this is where they draw the line. So I'm hoping that this goes through, because they've seen an uptick in crimes committed by these quote unquote ghost guns in the last decade. So it's one of those things that it's hard to, we're so worried about the basic gun rights that we're behind the ball. To me, behind the ball on things that are just every day something new is coming out. Mm-hmm. Every day a new problem with these guns are coming out. And the fact that you can make a gun at home, you can buy kits and not register, not have a background check, none of these things, and still have a dangerous firearm, and nobody sees the problem with that, bothers me. So,
well, okay, I'm gonna put my Second Amendment hat on with that, right? Especially with the kits. The thing about the kits is you can put all of it together, but the lower receiver is still serialized. So the lower receiver is actually what makes it the gun, right? It has your trigger in it. It has, and all of that. And so that part is serialized with any of those kits. The only thing that isn't is, your barrels, all the other parts to it. So the kits, I'm little
but you can make the lower barrel. You can make all that stuff with the 3D printer.
Right.
So they're saying you're not having to register this weapon, because I can buy a kit and it's not a gun, but I can go make a
receiver.
So at what point do we start tracking these things, right? And
I agree with the Supreme Court. I think it should go through. It makes sense, right? That, hey, as a law-abiding citizen, if you go create a gun, you gotta do it the same way that the ATF says that, hey, if you go buy a gun, we gotta track it, we gotta register it, yada yada yada. It's not gonna stop the bad guys, and I hear that so often. The laws don't stop the bad guys. Well, guess what? They're bad guys. We know that, but it makes it a lot easier for us to say, hey, bad guy, you're not supposed to have that gun. You're going to jail. Like, you know what I mean? So it makes law enforcement a lot easier when you have these laws on the books. So, the party of law and order ought to be all on board with, hey, we need to do these things because, we want to catch the bad guys with the guns and be able to let people have the guns that are law-abiding citizens. So
it's gonna take a kid making a lower receiver with a 3D printer at school and doing a school shooting for them to see. Like, it's gonna have to take something that crazy, which is still a possibility. Schools these days have 3D printers in some of their shops and stuff. So it was just something that was brought to my attention, and I brought it up more so because when we talk about the Constitution and what the meaning behind and the intent behind, it's like the world has changed so much that it's hard to foresee. If we had to write a Constitution first day of high school, the stuff that we would have wrote would be so irrelevant now. We wouldn't be able to foresee the way the world is today. And those things would have, and so we're looking at something. I don't even want to get into it. Keep going. I get annoyed. Let's go. So, is Sophie still up or?
Yeah. They have a e-learning day tomorrow, so the teachers got them a 4-day. So, hold on 1 second. Let me see. Go grab them.
Hi, here's your report.
Oh, thanks, Jane. I wish I could hire a whole team of yous.
Try posting a job on LinkedIn. It's the world's largest professional network. Unlike resumes, LinkedIn gives a real-time view into a candidate's skills, experiences, and more.
Huh, let's do it. You're irreplaceable, Jane, but another you would be great.
Find your perfect match with LinkedIn. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
At Rocket, we believe everyone deserves their shot at the American dream. So if you're feeling locked out of home ownership, we're here to give you back the keys. We're opening doors, breaking down walls, and doing everything we can to turn renters into owners. And we're not going to stop until we help everyone home. To find out more, visit rocket.com. Rocket, own the dream.
Bonnet Sophie.
Uh-oh.
Bonnet Sophie.
Bonnet Sophie.
Bonnet Soph.
Best Sophie.
Bonnet Soph. What's good?
That's good.
Nothing. Did you tell him about the color run? Or you didn't? So you should tell him about the color run today.
Yeah, I was like,
There was a color
I
run
just
today.
got here. So I would have told
Yeah,
him.
just stop stealing her thunder.
My bad.
Let's back this up. So,
Right.
Sophie, how was today?
It was good. I had to run. I did not run anything. I walked 2 miles.
You walk, was it a brisk walk? It was a fast walk, or you kind of strolled?
I walked with my friend.
Oh, okay. Just
I
slowly.
ran a little bit when I was taking a picture. You ran up to me.
Yeah, that's because I wanted to put. That's because I had powder in my hand. I really wanted to throw on you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Did you throw it on him?
I could throw powder on you. Yeah, I put it on his shoulder.
Did he scream?
No, he didn't scream. I was really sad about that.
I thought he would scream. He usually does
Me
scream,
too.
right?
Yeah, we did. It's so sad.
Whatever.
I mean, okay, you have a
can't
joke
be
for us?
sad.
I
Yes.
think I got the answer.
Why was this pharaoh so boastful? because he thinks he's the best.
Yeah, she's not gonna give you time anymore.
No, you guys don't get time anymore.
So if I'm gonna put you on mute so I don't hear the answer,
What?
and then I'm gonna answer when I want to answer. How about that?
That's cheating.
No, what's cheating is asking a joke and not giving people a chance to answer.
That's not cheating. That's me.
You're-
That's not cheating.
You're a sore loser, Sophie.
We play by my rules.
Oh Lord, here we go.
Yeah.
All right, I like that one.
See ya.
He thinks he's the best. Welcome back, Three Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. So let's see, what do we want to talk about today? Anybody got a question?
I have one, but I went last week. I think.
Yeah, Ferg, you didn't go last week, did you? You can jump on yours first.
I don't think so. Let me see. I had one. Let's see. Give me 1 sec.
While Ferg looks, I just want to say, man, Temu, count your days. I thought I was getting a sound card. I was like, oh, it's gonna be dope. It's gonna be dope. And then I like opened it, and it's like tiny. I was like, what is this? What is this? I thought I was getting like a whole mixing board.
How much did you pay for it, Razi?
Like $2.
Okay, and you thought you was gonna get a whole mixing board for that? Okay.
That's how they do. They like make you think you're doing it. It's actually pretty cool though.
Let me see. I had something. I don't even know what it was. Okay. This, I don't know if this is a good one, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Okay, so recently I've been addicted to this little thing called Am I the Asshole? Because it kind of reminds of our show where we'll present a topic and they give feedback on what's going on. So there's a situation and it made me think. Essentially, a lady called in or wrote in because she had siblings. She has 2 siblings. And her mother passed from, let's say, cancer, I think. And the mother left. The oldest daughter kind of helped nurse the mother and all this stuff. Help nurse the mother. And when the mother passed, she left. The 2 other siblings gave them $150,000 cash. Right? She left the daughter the house, and that was it. And at that time, the house was worth less than $100,000. So the daughter had moved in with the mother, was cleaning, be there to help cleaning up and stuff like that. But as she was cleaning up the house to get ready to sell it and, take the little money that she did get to try to fix it up, she started finding money and valuables around the house. Right. And so she found money stored away in books and jewelry and all this stuff. So after she did all that, got the house fixed, found the value of everything, it was a little more than what the mother gave the other kids. But then she reinvested and got the house fixed and all this stuff. And so eventually the family came over and they saw, I think maybe they saw like she had coins or whatever. And not only the sister did this, she took certain things that she thought her siblings would like and put it aside and gave it to them. So it had more value as well, adding to the $150,000 she gave them. Some clothes, some jewelry, all this stuff. So after she did all that, she was going to walk away with a little more than what the siblings gave her. Got. And so the siblings were basically saying, hey, once you finish cleaning up mama's house, selling and all this stuff, let us know so we can split the rest. And it made me think, as somebody who has multiple siblings, as somebody who has multiple kids, in a perfect world, you love all your kids equally and you want to split it sounds good to split everything equally. Do you think that is the right way to go about doing things? Or do you say, hey, the mother had a plan she knew that this person was maybe deserved more or would do right by her, or she wanted to gift her with more for whatever reason. And sometimes it's just like, and I think I've heard kind of reverses where it's a kid who might be the screw up that they help out the most because they know that Razi's going to be okay. So if I give everybody else 100,000, I give Razi 50,000. Razi's going to make that 50,000 do what it do, but everybody else needs 100,000. How do you think those things should play out? Is it just cut it down the middle, straight down the line, you honor their wishes, or is there a difference based off of people's needs, expectations, or it may be what they deserve? You know, all kids might not deserve the same thing. I birthed you and you ain't did shit for me in years and I gave you $150,000. You're welcome.
I mean, I'm trying to see how mama house was less than $100,000, but she had $300,000 to just shell out. But nevertheless,
old house, dilapidated, had been broken down, stuff like that. They had sold off land. There was a lot of bills because she had been sick for so long. So there was a lot of stuff that had to be paid out through the estate. And
I got you.
Yeah.
I say honor the wishes. I mean, I gotta assume when a parent or anybody for that matter, when they leave behind valuables and money and things to be passed out, that they're doing it for two reasons. Either they're doing it and giving, so if it's not equal, they're giving the most to who they think deserve it or to who they think needs it the most. And so you just got to respect those wishes. And in this case, it sounds like she left the most to who deserved it, if I heard the story correctly. Yeah. But sometimes, you know, there are some certain cases, like you mentioned when you was wrapping up the question, that sometimes they may look at it as, look, I know he'll F up. Razi, he good to go. Let me try one last time to help him get on his feet. So I'm going to give Razi's brother more money and hopefully he'll finally get it together and be on the same level as Razi. So I say respect the wishes.
Let me tell you how some other tea with the family. So she realized once they found out there was money, she kind of told them what happened, that she was finding money and valuables and some jewelry and stuff like that. She knew her family because of the way they were acting. She wouldn't change the locks. The house is in now Razi's name. Right. Everybody had keys to the house when it was in Mama's name. Now this is Razi's house. Mm-hmm. Right. So she wouldn't change the locks and stuff like that, had cameras up. And because she's at home by herself and it's kind of, they're in the middle of nowhere type area. The next day, 48 hours, something like that, camera comes on, brothers trying to get in the house, trying to use his key. Pissed off because there used to be a key under the mat. He looks for the key under the mat. So she has like a Ring camera or something. So she's talking to him. He's pissed. How dare you lock Mama's house? Like, this ain't Mama's house anymore. Mm-hmm. She gave to me. I'm fixing it up. I'm doing all those things. She left it to me. And the family was calling her, telling her she was trash and all this. And she actually sent the video to her husband's wife. And she couldn't believe it. She's like, "You're doing a little too much now, buddy."
Oh, the brother's wife.
The brother's wife. The brother's
like her husband's wife. I'm like, wait a minute.
No. She sent it to her brother's wife, and she was kind of agreeing with her, like, "Hey, like, calm down." And everybody, because it was just money. When money gets involved, people get a little nasty. So they were going to go through the house and snoop and try to find money or take whatever they thought they deserved. And I think being so close to death, you know, over the last couple of years and seeing family members and seeing other people deal with death and how that can potentially bring out the worst in people. You know, people think they are owed certain things, and when money comes on and thinking they know something. So what say you, Razi?
It's hard, man. You know, I think I've told the story of when my grandmother passed and how my parents had kind of did that, right? My dad literally built my grandma's house after it burned down. So we built the house and then put a mortgage on it in my parents' name because my grandma couldn't get the mortgage on it. the house still had a mortgage on it when my grandma died. And so my grandma was like, it's y'all house, right? But the rest of the sisters and brothers were like, well, it's heir property. This is mama's house. We should all have a say in it, yada, yada, yada. And my parents literally were like, well, we don't want the house. If y'all want the house, somebody refinance this house in your name and then y'all can have the house. But if you don't refinance the house and the house is going to stay in our name, then we're going to keep it. And it's kind of that same thing. You had, y'all ain't shit, nothing, blah, 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 blah. You just stealing mama house and everything else. And it's like, it's so difficult when you lose, your parent and you have to kind of go through that and figure it all out and everything. So first of all, listeners out there, have a will, or not even just a will, have just kind of something that writes down your wishes. It's funny. I literally have a book downstairs right now. It's called I'm Dead. Now what? And so it really is just kind of for you to write down just all the, how you want to be buried, like where you want to be buried. Do you want to be cremated? Like who gets what and all of that. Like all of that, just have it all written down. So then you know what the wishes are. Everybody has it. They can, there's no questions about it. So first of all, I say do that. And secondly, I will say, I always talk about as a parent, I don't give my kids time, energy, money, whatever equally. I give every child what they need. It's Sophie might not need help with homework, but Ollie might need help with homework. Ollie, is better at certain things in sports and stuff like that than Sophie. Sophie needs more help there. So it's like, you got to give the kids what they need. And so that's how I've always looked at it. So I could see when I pass, the kids don't get an equal 33, 33, 33. It's going to be what I think is the best use of that. Y'all talked about the whole Razi's okay. He don't need no money, or he don't need as much. This other kid that I've kind of generally had to support, help out throughout the years or whatever, I'm going to do something. Maybe I do a trust for them and Razi's the trustee of it, but they still get that money. But those are conversations that you got to have. You can't go in and think that you're going to live forever and not have these conversations with your loved ones. So listeners out there, just do that, man. You got to have that, and get some insurance too, because I'm so tired of people dying without insurance there. So, and maybe Buff, that might have been what happened, right? She might not have had $300,000 in cash. She might have had policies and gave them 300, 150, whatever in policies. Or was it actually, you know what I mean?
So I don't know if I know they inherited $150,000 each.
Right.
Put it that way.
It might not have been her sitting on cash. It might have been, that tax man or that insurance guy actually came and sat at a table and for one time she actually did the right thing, and she had some insurance and everything. So maybe it was that. But what I'll say to this situation is, I think old girl did the right thing by that money gave out. Right, everything is in the house. When you inherit the house, everything in the house is yours. So that's just how it goes. And then, especially since she kind of tried to do the right thing and say, "Hey, here's some things that I think mom would have wanted you to have," and all that. She didn't have to do that, right? So she already was going above and beyond what she needed to do, especially legally. So legally, there was no question she had the right to keep all that money. But when you just talk about just doing the right thing for siblings and keeping the peace and everything like that, I think that was kind of her way of trying to do that. But she was smart to change the locks because she probably saw it coming. She probably knew her siblings and knew that they were going to try to do something like that. So you got to know who you're dealing with too when you're dealing with family. And I'm all on board with what she did.
And do you think the mom should have better explained her rationale? Or do you think that's still it don't matter what you say, because if Razi get 100 and I got 50, ain't nothing you can say that makes me feel comfortable that Razi got 100 and I only got 50.
I think so. I think the conversation, and that's what happens a lot of times, is families don't talk about what they're leaving, right? If you could have had these conversations, so you could have had these questions while mom was still alive. If she had said, here's what I plan to do, you're going to get the house, you're going to get this much, you're going to get this much, something happens. And if mom had that conversation on the front end, I think especially for the sister's sake, she wouldn't have had to deal with them trying to come back for the house and everything, because this is what mom said. We already had this conversation. She probably still would have had to, just judging by what these, the siblings are doing and how they are. But at least she had something to fall back on, like mom said that. So again, with having the will, having the kind of what your wishes are out on the table and having that conversation on the front end is much, much easier. I've had that conversation with my mom, and my mom's like, well, y'all just figure it out. I'm gonna let y'all figure it out. And I'm like, luckily we get along, but at the same time, there's going to be tension. You're causing tension between us to have to figure it out when you could just take it on yourself. And I think a little bit of it is just parents don't want to take it on themselves, and they don't want to be the bad guy. So they're like, y'all figure it out.
Yeah, I think I kind of disagree.
With what? The last part?
Just that she should have sat down and talked to them. No. And that's different from your mom's situation, because your mom is saying, y'all figure it out. She had it figured out. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. You two get $150K apiece. She gets the house. There it is. And she ain't got to explain herself, because she actually could have gave them nothing.
Yeah.
Y'all don't get shit. I'm donating this all to a charity.
Yeah.
So
I think I lean more with Buff. And it maybe gives some piece to, out of the three kids, maybe the sister might be able. Only thing she can probably say is, well, mom already told y'all what to expect. Then on the same token, the reason the mother doesn't want to have that conversation is, like, I want to enjoy my life. I don't want this to be hanging over my head. I don't want you coming by to see me on Sunday now because you're trying to get in my will. And, it is what it is. If I see a need to change it, I'll change it. But at this point, I don't want my life, my remaining life I have, to be lived or experienced through you on what you're going to get out of it. Right? The will is, at least she had a will. She had things set up. I think I'm with you, Razi. It's on the fact that you I think all of us said respect her wishes. She doesn't really owe you a rationale. It could be completely screwed up. Even there's a couple of shows I think we've all watched. I think there was an episode of maybe Blackish where Raven Simone character or something like that. I feel like it was Blackish where the Raven Simone character was going to get more money in the will or something like that. They would leave her more. And then even in what's the show with Tuck and all those people, Lovecraft Country, where the what's her name? Journey Smollett's character.
Oh, okay.
Her character inherited, her mom gave her the money and she bought the house. Her mom left her money and then leave the sister money. Whatever it was, like, sometimes happens that way. Life happens that way, and it's up to the person who lived that life to make the determination of what they want to do with what they've earned.
I get that, but I think as a parent, you want to be able to give your... I get that, but as a parent, you want to be able to give your child closure, right? Like, I don't want my kid thinking daddy loved Sophie more than he loved me, right? Like, if you don't do it equally or whatever, that's in the back of their head.
It's nothing you can tell me, Razi. You gave Sophie 100, you gave me 50. You obviously love Sophie twice as much as me.
It's not what you say, it's your actions. At the end of the day,
versus
her more.
But at least, again, it's that being able to have that conversation, to be able to be upfront with your child and be able to say, it's Sophie needs this for this, this, and this. This is why. Here's my rationale. This is not because I don't love you more.
Now you and Ali ain't talking because you've hurt his feeling.
Hey,
what I got to do it for you? You giving her 50 more K than me? Maybe she should do
it. Y'all know me. I'll be like, well, you ain't gonna get that 50 then. How about that? Like, you know what I mean? That's my whole thing. It's like,
give him the 50 and call it a day, you know? So
I mean, I'm big on closure. I'm big on transparency. I'm big on them understanding why I'm doing things, right? Like, I always give them the why. And I don't want my last act as a parent for them to not understand the why.
But wouldn't your greater acts, like your life work as a parent, shouldn't that supersede this last act? Like, if you're a great father.
Yeah. I don't think it's gonna be a daddy. You know, I hate daddy or whatever. But it's that last thing.
We've seen it.
What's going on?
We've seen it.
Why? Like, not understanding why. If it's grief is hard, and y'all both know that, right? And like, having that moment where you just don't understand why your parent did something, and now you've lost them. You can't say and go and talk to them and ask them why they did it. That's hard. And so that's my only thing. I don't want them spinning out for grieving the loss of me and spinning out on why I did something. And so I'd much rather have that conversation.
Just sound like you need to split it equally.
I probably will, but I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm going to have that conversation with them. Why? If I decided not to split it equally, me personally, I'm going to have that conversation of why I'm not splitting it equally with them. And then they can have that conversation, you know, later on, whatever. We can keep having that conversation, but I'm going to give them the reason why.
So for the 15 years you live after having that conversation, you're going to continue to have that conversation. And then it might change because now Ollie has Ollie has 2 kids. And so you want to make sure your grandkids get money, the same amount of money. So now Ollie's going to get a little more because you want to leave $50,000 all your grandkids. So that's an extra $50,000 that Ollie gets that Sophie don't get. You know, like.
I mean, but that like, when I say that, I'm not saying I'm going to be like down nickel and dime into, oh, you get 52 and you get 100 or whatever. But I'm going to give them the generalities of what I'm thinking with my separation or how I'm giving the money out or how I'm giving the assets out. Like, hey, I'm going to do it based on, maybe I do it based on the grandkids. It's like, hey, each person is going to get this much money. So if they had grandkids and then they didn't, then that person's going to get more because I want that money to roll down to the grandkids too. Like, I want them to have the rationale.
You're punishing me for not having kids, Rozzy.
Yes. Buff said, we need to encourage, look, you ain't married, so you ain't getting no money for not being married. You ain't getting money for not having kids. No, you ain't getting all that. But yeah, I mean, but again, whatever it is, I'm going to have that conversation about the rationale. And I'm going to be able to say, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because they're going to be in that situation at some point and they're going to have to make it. And I want them to be able to say, well, here's how my dad did it. Did I like that or not? Let me do it another way.
Can't you leave an explanation in the will on trust?
You can.
An explanation on why you're dividing it. Like,
yeah, you can most definitely write a letter and say, "Here's how I'm doing it. Here's why I'm doing it." Yada yada yada. You most definitely can.
That's what I'll do, Buff. So I don't live the rest of my life debating with you on why this happened. You know, I'm kind of like you in the long run. Hopefully, my kids are equally yoked, and it's an easy decision, and the money's more so for the grandkids and all that stuff. I plan to be here and hope to be here a long time, but you know, maybe even the great grand. So, but the reason I brought that question up is because I think we've all dealt with death. We've all seen people, and we've seen how those challenges affect the families. As far as who gets money, who has to pay for stuff, like all those things, right? And so I encourage people to have those conversations now with their parents if need be, or now with their kids or significant other as well, because I've seen people who might, you know, only one parent dies, and then the kids think because this other parent died that they are entitled to money at that point. You know, it's like, hey, this is my spouse, right? This is the person that he was a primary breadwinner, or this was our combined income, so we're still running our house. you'll get something when we're both gone. So I don't know the solution. I don't know how that works, but at least have that conversation. Stop letting. I'm trying to get I'm trying to go away from having the fish fries and just say get insurance. I'm saying, hey, let's start planning and talking about those death decisions, those life decisions that happen because death is inevitable.
Yep.
So that was my 2 cents.
Good question. No.
All right, let's go ahead and close it out. We had a good show, even though we only got one question, but hopefully that helped some people with planning, put a bug in some people's ear, or fire under some people's ass to start having those tough conversations, making those tough decisions, or at least start planning. So with that being said, let's go ahead and close it out, fellas.
Clorox Sentiva smells like lavender. Cleans like Clorox. And feels like...
All right, that could go on for a while. Experience the long-lasting freshness of Clorox Sentiva. Now available in Clorox Sentiva Lavender Scented Bleach. Use as directed.
Love, exciting and new.
Hello, Hannah Waddingham here. Have you seen the fabulous new Sun Princess? World-class entertainment, exceptional dining, and the greatest pizza ever.
It's a love.
Don't miss our Come Aboard sale with up to 40% off and free room upgrades. Visit princess.com or call your travel advisor to book. Princess Cruises. Terms and restrictions apply. Offer ends 2/28/25. Ships of Bermudan and British Registry.
The funniest part is them telling her, hey, once you sell the house, let us know so we can divide that up too. Oh man, I like the presumption.
And the comments are always the best.
I bet. Listen, man, we all know who Oprah is. We know who Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods. Some of us even know who Robert Smith is, who paid all those college students tuition when they graduated a few years ago. There are a handful of black billionaires, and we pretty much know most of them. But if I had to pick one to be, it would be Mr. David Stewart. David Stewart is the richest black man in America. He is worth $11.4 billion, and he founded a company called Worldwide Technology. And nobody knows him. Nobody really knows him for real. Can you imagine being that rich? And he married to a black woman. And I only point that out. I only point that out because usually when some of my fellow brethren cross a certain tax bracket, sometimes they go non-black. So, but no, seriously, nobody knows him. And I just think it's cool to be that rich, that wealthy, and can literally go shopping in Target if you wanted to. So shout out to David Stewart, man. $11.4 billion. His company acquired huge companies like they do technology for Microsoft, Apple, and a lot of the other big, huge. Oh, the federal government is a client of theirs as well. So he started in like the early to mid 90s. And so that's pretty dope, man. Something we may witness history this election. I can't believe this has never happened. But there's a good chance that the Republicans will take the Senate, and there's a good chance that the Democrats may take the House. The House is currently ran by the Republicans. The Senate is currently ran by the Democrats. It'll be the first time we have a double flip in an election where both houses flip to the other side majority. Now, we've had both houses flip to the Democrats or to the Republicans, but never from one party to the other party on both sides of the Capitol. So that'd be a bit of history. And last but not least, man, I mentioned Harris needing to get a huge turnout in the black community in Wisconsin. And I'm sure that's the same in many other states. I thought this was an interesting question to just kind of ponder. And I'm not making it a question. You guys don't have to answer. It's kind of rhetorical. But are the Democrats in trouble? Because one of the reasons that they're pointing out that black people are no longer, at least in Wisconsin, are not turning out the same, is because they don't, as the younger generation comes up and become voting age, we're getting further and further away from civil rights. So when the Voting Rights Act passed and civil rights was passed and black people were allowed to vote, it felt like visiting your championship trophy for black people each time they went to the election polls. Like, hey, here's something we actually fought for and can put our hands on and do. And as we get further and further from that time, I'm not dumping on young people, but it's not that meaningful to them anymore, like it was to our parents, our grandparents, and even to us to a certain extent. And so you have that coupled with, you got more black people saying that, look, I voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012 and nothing changed. And they've become a bit like, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. So they're not bothering to show up. And so they just want to see tangible results. I know there have been policies passed that you could say, oh, this dropped and that dropped and this increased for black people. But there are a lot of black people that are saying, I don't see any change. I don't see the point. And if the Democrats lose the black vote, that could be big trouble for them. So I'm just wondering if that's a trend that the party needs to look out for and try and fix and make sure they focus on. They're going to have to remedy that, and really, 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 it's going to have to be more than a black Supreme Court nominee. They're going to have to really address the needs of black people.
I think,
or they face not winning more elections.
Yeah, I think they need to stop riding our backs, right? Like, identity politics, I think, is starting to wane. You see it with Hispanics, right? They're starting to flip towards Republicans a little bit more now. Like, you can't just say the Hispanic vote is a Democratic vote. And I think it's the same thing with blacks, right? It's not blacks are just that. Identity politics, I think, is starting to die as we move away from civil rights.
I heard somebody say that what is the Hispanic vote? He was like, we're not a monolith. It's Hispanic people, they want different things. Mm-hmm. So there is no like one thing for you to say the Hispanic vote. They want different things.
And also and why I say they got to get off, stop riding our back is it's 70% of black vote is huge when you think about the actual average turnout, right? What's happening is black turnout is starting to go more in line with just normal voter turnout. So while we're saying, oh, black people got to get to the polls, black people got to get to the polls, we say that because we know that makes, our platform and what we want, better, or we can actually get it, get it done more. But at the same time, it's just going back in line with what normal voter turnout was. I think in one of the elections, the last election, it was like only 30% of the population voted. We have like America has like one of the lowest democratic voter turnouts than most developed nations. So like as a country, we don't really vote like we normally do, or like we should be. And so I think just black people are starting to go more in line with that. And to your point about the Democrats have to think about that, I think they do have to start thinking about that. They have to stop with the identity politics and really start getting down into what do our voting block want, and start capturing people that want whatever that is. And that's the only way that you're going to do it, whether it is the black vote or a Hispanic vote or whoever. It's just, I need to get a bigger tent and make sure that those people are coming out. And I also think like black people, as they get older, just generally they, as you get older, you start voting more. And so I think when we look at just the younger generation, they're not going to vote like the folks who grew up in the 60s or 70s or still had that civil rights mentality, right? Even as young kids, they were voting at 16 or 18, 19, 20. Whereas now our 18, 19, 20 year olds are just like, meh. I'll vote when I start paying taxes and I want my taxes lower. And that's probably why black people are starting to move towards the Republican side a little bit, because they're like, I want lower taxes. So,
and it's something to that. But at the same time, when like in Wisconsin, when the black vote fell from 78% to 46 to 43, white and Hispanic vote went up.
Mm-hmm.
So, go back to Wisconsin. There hasn't been a single ticket item that has directly affected Black people, like civil rights. The second closest biggest ticket item that affected Black people, and that Black people as a monolith in the situation can get behind, was Barack. That's it. There's no one single. What is there for the Democrats to think about? What issue can they get to get the Black vote? There's nothing. There's no one thing that's so important today that's going to make us run to the polls, even with the fear of Trump or whatever the world's going to be. People's lives aren't really affected as much as we try to. It's more inconvenienced. Yeah, inflation's up. Maybe you can't buy a house, but you're not homeless. You're not doing this. Now, I'm not trying to downplay the economy and, the fact, well, not economy, but the current situation with inflation and stuff like that. People are struggling, right? But we're kind of all going through it together. So it's not just a black issue or whatever. There's nothing that's really just saying, hey, Black people are going to get out and vote, support this.
Yeah. You talk about reparations. It's even the anti-DEI stuff that's happening right now. I don't even think if we put that on it, it'd be like, hey, we're going to enshrine affirmative action and this, that, other. Black people still would be like, I don't need that. Because I can see the hotels. We don't need that. Rah, 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 rah.
Because it doesn't affect everybody. It doesn't affect all Black people. Something as simple like the closest thing I can compare it to is, what the abortion laws and stuff when it comes to women's rights. And you would think that more women would support it. But even that in itself is not big enough issue to say the women's vote is this. So there's not a lot going on in the U.S. today that politics is far left, far right, but the country is kind of middle. We're all going through the shit together, unless you're just super rich. And that's
it. We're on the fringes of what's left to address. All right, the big stuff, it has kind of been addressed, and so now we're talking to onesie twosies, which again that's why your voting blocks and your constituency is kind of, you got to cobble it together a little bit. It's harder to get it together than it is there.
But I don't
Republicans
care,
have it easy, right? Like, hey, if you're racist, come on over. Like, it's very easy for them to pull their folks in. It's not as easy for the Democrats.
So, I mean,
again, not saying you are racist. It's saying, you can be racist without being a racist. So just throw it out there.
You can be racist.
The racists talk about you.
So, it's my turn. Only thing I got, man, shout out to the NCAA. They are considering eliminating letters of intent. And so you guys, with sports, kids in high school and things like that, if letters of intent really, really lock a kid in when they want to go to a school or whatever. And so they are just going to use financial aid and selections, and so that's much easier for the kids to go. So it's opening it up a lot more for these kids when they talk about NIL deals and everything like that. It is really, really becoming semi-pro as these athletes are, and so they're able to move and make decisions much later in the process, so they can do a financial aid application, student aid application, and so they basically, you know how you normally apply for a school, you can say I want to go, but then you can switch at the last minute, no big deal, when you're regularly going to college. So now the kids can do that exact same thing, and they can say, yeah, I'm going here, and without that letter of intent, they're not locked into that school, and they don't have to be released by the school to go to another school with that letter of intent. And so without some repercussions there. So it's kind of a cool thing. I think it's good for the athletes. It makes it much harder for the schools, but such is life. They'll be okay. They make enough money off of these kids that they'll be all right with not being able to lock kids down in junior year of school or freshman year of school sometimes with these letters of intent. So I'm loving that. And finally, man, I just want to say free UAB. Our coach sucks, and he's so bad. He's so bad. And so I hear a lot of talk about the board of trustees and, we fall under the University of Alabama. And so they don't want to see us win and this, that, and other. I don't think it's that. I really don't think it's that. I think the board of trustees is just like, I just want to make sure that we're not investing in a program that isn't doing anything, isn't growing or whatever. They don't want to put the money in on the front end for it. And I get that, like that, they're not trying to build a program. They got a program at Alabama in football. So why would I invest in trying to build a whole nother one there? And so, but I don't think the board of trustees is like against UAB. I really just think it's a bad AD, and I think it's a horrible coaching decision. And so I'm just back on this free UAB train. We need to get a new coach. We need to fire Trent Dilfer, pay that $3 million to buy his contract out, and go ahead and get a new coach. So that's my sports for it. Yeah, I ain't got that. So.
Well, it's funny that you brought it up. I was saying sticking with college football. And then maybe I don't say this a lot, but college football might have got it right this year. I think going to the 12-team playoff system with the way college football is shaping up this year is going to be a hell of a year. I mean, the fact that Alabama went from number 1, beating the number 2 team one week, going to number 1 and losing to what essentially is a laughing stock of the SEC. Not even losing, they pretty much were dominated that game. I think that's enough Alabama slander without Alabama slander. But the fact that
love to see it.
Pretty soon, these 12 teams like trying to get in is going to be so interesting. Can a 2-3 loss team make it to top 12 and go all the way? Like Vandy showed you that it can be done. We saw a lot of upsets this past weekend. We've seen a lot of upsets this year already. And this is Florida State. Oh, no. Damn, I'm just getting on everybody's team. Florida State, who had a legitimate gripe last year, right? Came back this year and has pretty much been a shell of themselves. Was last year their last chance to be a dynamic team? And could they have taken that situation, undefeated season, and take it all the way as they finished with number 5, number 6 team, something like that?
Yeah, after they got blown out by Georgia?
No, before that. But
they was number 5.
Yeah. So could they have played in
or 6? They might have been 6. Yeah. You're right. Yeah.
If they would have to come across Georgia, but they didn't have people that played and all that stuff. So maybe they got it right. This is gonna be very interesting. It gives more people something to play for, and even somebody like Alabama who slipped up this week. Last year after losing to Vandy, they might as well chalk their season up.
My only grief with it is I just hate for kids to be playing extra games like that.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I was saying, because you had a lot of people sit out for the bowl games. Now you're playing 2-3 more games.
So maybe subtract the regular season game, because all the big schools, they usually play like a throwaway game anyway. So maybe one less game.
Yeah, give them an extra bye throughout the season.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Because it's 2 extra games, right?
12, 6. Yeah, because the 12 is a normal bowl game. So then it'll go 6, 3 with one
because
of them rolling
the top
over.
2 sit out, right?
Yeah.
The top 2 have a bye week. That takes you to, I don't know, whatever it is. So you can eliminate. You go from.
I mean, when you think about it, they're going to play 2 more games because they're still going to use the bowl games as that first round. So they're going to end up playing 2 more games. So, or 1 more game if they made it from this time. So it's really
maybe
just
not everybody, because you have teams who aren't going to play in a conference championship game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That still might make it, right? So you might get 3 teams in from the SEC, right? One of those teams might not have played in an SEC championship game.
Right.
I can see
That's
Texas,
true.
Alabama, and Georgia all possibly, possibly for a bid. All 3 of them can't play, so somebody's going to get a bye week. Maybe the winner of that game gets a bye week, and the person who's on the fringe has to play another game. So I don't know. Somebody smarter than me has figured it out, but I'm just excited to see where it goes. And with all the fact that I ain't never seen this early in the season. Like, nigga, I don't know what's gonna happen. Last
it's
couple
been a
of
good
years,
one.
Georgia, Alabama, people dominated. Clemson dominated. This year's like, I don't know what's gonna happen. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and close it on out, fellas. 3 Brothers No Sense, your favorite barbershop style podcast. 6 rules of podcast: listen, like, share, subscribe, comment, and most importantly, listen again. Talk to you next week.